I always wanted to be a cowboy because I grew up with a cowboy dad. I worked in West Texas from 34 up to the World War II, and then he came back to Ohio. So I kind of grew up as a wholesale radio arena cowboy. I didn't want to get mixed up with the surfer boys, so I sort of made it like what we call short leggings called shinks, the fringe. My name is Michael Stevens, and I build electric guitars since back in the 60s. I've always been doodling as a kid, clear back in school, high school, and just little by little, it worked its way into what I do. When I got to Texas after I left Ohio State, either I didn't have enough money, didn't get the paperwork done, I was stoned, or all three. You know, that was the 60s. And I was in bands and playing and repairing guitars. And once I finally got to designing guitars, all that Bois and Lowy and those designers with the hard edge stuff had stuck with me. No, I never saw anybody in my family doing anything. Maybe mom, certainly wasn't my dad. So I don't know where that happened. And I early on didn't sing much. I did a little. I had a guitar but couldn't play it. I don't know why I even got it, who gave it to me. But when I'd be riding my horse, I'd whistle well. I wasn't quite as good as Bing Crosby or some of those guys, but that's what I would do, or sing things and draw and noodle and. This is regular Honduras mahogany, and so it's pretty plain. And some pieces I've got are darker. There's another darker one, but this figure in mahogany is really a rare thing. That tree was cut down in 1965, this tree, and it fell into a ravine in central Belize. There's a lot of cowboy artists, and that are really good. I mean, they're focused on that genre of horses and cattle and the ranches and this and that, but there's some really good artists in that involved. And when I moved down here, I realized that we had the Texas Cowboy Poetry Gathering here. When you talk about modernism and minimalism, and think about that, the Cowboys don't go much for that. Most of what I do is I want them to be meticulously built and ergonomically balanced and feel good. I think they're pushing art these days, but you can take it off there's some that are weird, you could say, in art, but you take it off the wall and I guess because it was never done before as art, I don't think. Even though there's been books written about the art of the guitar, of that. I don't know, it's just the only thing that I guess I thought I should be Picasso or something like that, to me more thing. But it's finally, I guess, sunk into my head that they are, because I know people that have a bunch of them and they can't play them all, so they're hanging out. It's my art on their wall. Or when I see those guys playing, and they're doing their art, felt that I had some part in that part of their world. And I've had a bunch of them.
One person told me, well, you'll have to move to New York if you really want to make it. I told him, I don't think I'll have to move. I think New York will come to me. Hi, welcome to my studio. I'm here in Alpine and I'm working on this piece, the agave. It's a sacred symbol of the desert. My name's Pauline Hernandez. I'm a ceramist. I had always been around earthenware since I live along the border. We lived in Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Presidio, and Alpine is technically still considered a border town. So the Spanish influence and the brush strokes have always been present in my work. Well, this kind of helps the clay bodies, molecules line up. It's kind of like a precondition, and you can see how it's kind of in a conical form and a shell-like form. So this is what I was talking about, where you see nature repeating itself in a lot of the aspects in pottery, in the creation. And so now I'm making sure that there's no air pockets stuck between the folds, because those can throw your walls off center. When my brother passed away, that was something I was longing to capture, and was something that I couldn't hold anymore. So I was trying to capture that still. I even experienced that during 9/11. I just had to get the grief, to cope with the grief. I think I thought I was an artist, but then when I found out the predecessors and the pillars before me from the Renaissance really established a lot of the study for me. A lot of the footwork had already been done. I just took for granted that I knew perspective, but I really did have to study it. I have a different appreciation for it now. I didn't get here alone. It was something that was supported by people around me. And the more I blossomed, the more confidence I gained. The color that you see is not the color that it is. It's the refraction of all the other colors. It's a different kind of dimension, I think, where what you're really seeing is not what you're really painting. And plus, it's a reflection of my culture that I've inherited, and the region. My great-great-grandmother was Apache, and so the stories that my mother would tell me just always filled my imagination with, and the longing to connect with that heritage. It's right there. Let's see if you can see it. Did you see it as it went around? Yeah. But it's never finished. Even as I eat off of the pieces, the ceramic pieces I've decorated, I still feel like, oh, I could have added a little more to that piece.
And we are here quilting at the Sunshine House. I am Dorothy Mines, and I've been doing hand quilting here since 2007. My mother never quilted. She was too busy helping my dad raise money to feed us 6 children. This was during the time of World War II, and I had no clue why I wanted to start quilting. I just think the universe was telling me, dear, this is what you need to be doing next. Quilting has really been kind of my life since I started. It's helping me find good friends, which is something I was too busy raising family to find time for, and gave me meaning. It taught me that I can do creative things, which is not something that was ever on my plate. When the settlers first started coming to the United States, they weren't traveling with a whole lot of wardrobe. Some of them learned how to make thread. They learned how to weave fabrics. They learned how to put pieces together. And it's called a Granny's Flower Garden. And this is 100 hand-pieced. And if you look at these tiny, neat stitches. Many, many pieces done with care, wonderful choices of colors, and obviously it was done with love and probably with hopes that some member of the family would receive it for a wedding or some other wonderful family event. And now we do electric sewing in addition to the hand sewing. It was done for my granddaughter for her high school graduation. This is done 100% by machine, and all of these pieces are come together and then individually quilted. Wherever there's life, there's art. Everyone's an artist. The choices you make and how you live your life, that's your artistry. And I happened onto quilting, and I think that was meant for me. Everyone has to express in their own fashion, and this happened to be mine.
I quilt because my grandmother quilted. She was born in 1904, and then my mother in 1926. She quilted also. It gives me a connection to them, and now my sister and I quilt. There's a peace and a calmness to doing hand quilting. I also enjoy getting together with my friends and conversation, fellowship.
Again, it's a family thing. Mother, grandmother, aunts all quilted, and it's a relaxing hobby that I enjoy and is kind of useful. So that's why I started it. Well, it's very relaxing, and yet it can be challenging.
Yes.
Which is great.
The whole point is to try to make your stitches straight and even, and be sure to go. There are 3 levels. You have the top and the batting and the back. And you want that needle to go through all 3 pieces and then come back up and then go down and then come back up and then pull it through. If I have one of the more unorthodox ways, I don't use a thimble. Since I have been quilting, it has helped me to learn to focus. It has helped me to enjoy spending time. It has helped give me meaning.
I grew up in a ranch in Ojinaga. Part of my childhood was raising goats, being amongst cattle, horses, you name it. And to me, it's part of my identity. And I didn't really cherish it till I was away from home. Nostalgia brought me to create work related to where I'm from the little town in the border. And to me, like, for example, the goat represents my family, because every time there was going to be a huge gathering, everyone coming for a visit. Hello, welcome to Soras State University. This is where I get to teach and paint. My family moved from Ojinaga in Mexico to Presidio, Texas. Being a child that didn't know English, going into a classroom that only spoke English, made me, not understand what was going on. So my way of coping with it was sketching, drawing, and that's where I started becoming more keen into drawing. I found drawing a way of becoming, feeling more secure. Each animal to me represents a way of being, like a human characteristic or trait. Like for me, like goats, to me are like animals that are fearless, that they like to be on top of things, literally, which, represents a person who likes challenges, jump over challenges. My creatures have this cartoony feel to them, but I like to have messages. Like, for example, the one here, right there, the prickly pear. All of them are dealing with the prickly pear cactus. In this case, to me, the prickly pear cactus represents a problem, a challenge. And each one of us has a different way of coping or working through a challenge. Going to look at my work, and from their own experience and perspective, they'll create the story in the image. It's up to the viewer to decide what their story is and narrative, and they decide what the story is. I think it's important that the viewer is able to see and interact with the painting or the prints or even the music. There has to be a dialogue for an artwork to be alive. You're exposing your soul to what other people can interpret of what you do. Because in a sense, they're looking at you through your artwork. Like my work talks about society as a whole, and it's a criticism of what we're doing with our planet or culture or humanity as a whole by ironically using animals. I think it is important to question or push the limit of our thinking by creating art that challenges the things that we just don't see in every day. Sometimes we're afraid of just portraying and showing who we are, exposing and having people critique that, that vulnerability we have as humans. Like we don't like to be exposed and see who we really are. Because I'm afraid of what other peoples will either reject or accept my art, therefore, whether or not they accept me.
Welcome to the Museum of the Big Bend. I'm Mary Bones, the director of the museum, and I'd like to welcome you to this wonderful museum where we tell the story through history and art under one great roof. The first thing I want to introduce you to at the Museum of the Big Bend is this incredible reproduction of Tall Rock Shelter painted by Pauline Hernandez. And this beautiful rock art piece is a wonderful exact reproduction of what you would see up in the Davis Mountains that was created by the indigenous people over 1,000 years ago. The new world over into the old world. You're out in cattle country, and we have a nice display talking about the impact of the original cowboy, the Spanish vaquero. In 1931, after Elizabeth Kiefer married Modi Boatwright and she could no longer teach at the university, Julius Waltz was hired to come and take over the art department. He also created something called the Summer Art Colony, which was the most successful art colony in the state of Texas, running from 1932 to 1950. So one of the most influential artists here at Soras State University is this artist, Elizabeth Kiefer Boatwright. She was here from 1928 to 1932 and influenced a range of artists while she was here. She was best known as the etcher of the Indians, so she was one of the very few Anglo women allowed on the pueblos in New Mexico to be there during the feast days and during their dances. This is an excellent work after Elizabeth left Soras, as she continued to go back to New Mexico, and she was transitioning from doing her etching into oil paintings. for the very first summer art colony, he asked his very good friend Javier Gonzalez to come out and work with him, to work with students during this art colony. Gonzalez was from San Antonio, as was Julius Waltz, and Mr. Gonzalez was here at the art colony from 1932 to 1936, before he then eventually moved to New York, where the rest of his career was based.